To crack CAT, you need a lot of practice, and you can practice by taking Krako's free mock. Just Google search Krako free CAT mock. Follow the link to get the free mock. We have put in a free mock with the latest pattern and with detailed solutions. Hi friends, welcome to Krako's video series. In today's video, we will explain how to fill the SPJ IMR form. Considering the weightage that is given for profile in this particular institute, it's very important that you fill this form properly. So we'll try to help you as far as possible in filling this form. So before we do that, let's take first a look at what the important dates are. So the application opens on 23rd September. It will close on 23rd November. So there's just like about a week left. So please make sure that you start filling the form immediately. The application fee is 1500 rupees. So based on this, I would say that please start immediately filling the form from now, because there is very little time left. So basically, what is the eligibility criteria? So the application process is such that the shortlisting is done in 2 rounds. First is there are the profile based calls only. The profile based calls are those who have like exemplary ACADS like toppers, state toppers, etc., or those who have very good work experience. So if you are one of those people, then you will get the profile based call. You need to have a very good profile, like very good ACADS, institute or department top ranks, top 10 ranks, etc. So those guys will get the profile based calls. Then there is a second round of calls, that is profile plus score based. So for the profile plus score based calls, the minimum qualifying score for so they accept CAT and XAT scores. For the minimum qualifying score, you need to get 75 percentile in each of the 3 sections and 85 percentile overall. So that is the minimum score that is required for you to, that is a minimum cutoff required for you to apply for this. The call will be based on your profile plus the score. So there is no this as such that a score alone can, will be a minimum cutoff for the score alone as such, because that essentially depends on how good your profile is. If your profile is exceptionally good, this minimum score might qualify. If it's not, you might actually need more score to compensate for that. So that is the basic fundamental bit, that is the basic how of how SPJIMR shortlist people. Now, given the fact that profile is required for both round A and round B, it is very important that you fill in the some sections of this form very carefully. So let's take a look at what are the sections of this form. So there is basic sections such as personal info, education, work experience, and so these are things that you even filled in the CAT form, and they are pretty straightforward. So you have to fill these sections in this form also exactly the same way. These are pretty standard sections as such. The 2 sections that would require some amount of 2-3 sections require a little bit of this is that preferences, work experience, and achievements. These are the 3 sections that will essentially determine how your profile is viewed by the shortlisting panel. So these are the 3 sections that essentially make the difference. So we'll take a look into how to properly fill these 3 sections as such. The remaining sections are kind of standard. So let's get into preferences. So preferences essentially say you're telling the institute what you would like to study. Now this should be essentially 3 things. This is what is relevant to your profile, what you're interested in, genuinely interested, and what you can defend in front of the panel. So if you draw as 3 circles, like what is relevant to your profile, then you have what you are interested in and what you can defend to panel. So the overlap of these 3 is where what you should put in your preferences. That is how you should actually order the preferences. If you are interested in something and do not have the relevant profile or the relevant work experience, it is going to be very, very difficult for you to defend this in front of the panel. But if your interest has led you to do things like activities that would in such a way that you can justify it to the panel, then still write it. For example, many people say that engineers should not put finance as a preference. But if you are so genuinely interested in finance that you keep a very good, you keep an eye on the stock market, you are very well, you have a good idea about fundamental analysis of companies. If you're essentially so genuinely interested in it that you have put in the time and effort to understand different things of finance, then put it, because then you will be able to defend this in front of the panel. But if it's something that you feel you're interested in, but you have never actually put in any time and effort chasing, then don't put it in the form as such. So essentially, if there are a lot of people who put in finance as their chosen option just on the basis of the fact that that particular stream pays well. But that is not something that you can defend in front of a panel. So don't put it on the basis of what will pay you well, or what your friends are putting, or based on the basis of what the placements are. These are actually very weak motivations for you to choose a particular stream. Even if finance pays better on average than operations, that doesn't mean that it would pay you better this. If you're more suitable for operations, then if you do well in it, you will be paid much better overall than in finance. So choose what is relevant to you, what is suitable for you, and what is suitable for your friends will not necessarily be what is suitable for you. So this is the basic thing, that while choosing, make sure that it is relevant to you, relevant to your profile. It is something that you are interested in, genuinely interested in, and something that you can defend in front of a panel. These three should be the primary things that should be going on in your mind while choosing the preference. Now, what are the four preferences? First is operations and supply chain. So here you need either relevant work experience, or either certifications like you have certifications like Six Sigma or Green Belt, or something like that, where you can justify why you're choosing this particular stream as such. If you have a graduation in a core engineering subject like mechanical or electrical, even that will help. Mechanical, civil, electrical engineers should genuinely consider this particular stream. The second one is information management. So this is the best suited for those who are working in IT, and also freshers who have a graduation in Comsci or in information technology. These guys should consider information management preference. The third preference is marketing. Freshers should consider marketing as a preference, because a lot of marketing companies that come for recruitment prefer freshers. So even the institute knows that, even the panelists know that. So if you're a fresher, you should consider marketing. And also, if you have if you have a good profile where you have organized a lot of events, if you have a profile where you have interested in creative aspects or cultural aspects, this might be a good fit, because that people who are extremely into extracurricular activities, who have held a lot of positions of responsibility in like cultural fest, etc., are those which are actually sought after by marketing companies. So those are kind of a suitable fit for this particular stream as such. The fourth one is finance. As I said, there's a lot of competition. So make sure that you are able to justify this option if you choose it. Commerce graduates are a good fit for this stream. CAs are a good fit, obviously. So if you have the relevant work experience of working in a bank, of a commerce stream, or a finance kind of stream, then put this. If you're an engineer and you have spent in considerable effort understanding the financial market, then put this. If you have given the first level of CFA, it might not be enough, but it is at least something. So you might consider putting finance as the stream. So these are the details about preferences. Now coming to work experience. So it's very important that you write the work experience that you did properly. So first focus on what your major role was. So what was the basic thing that you did? If you were a developer, say what you developed, what projects you worked on. What was your team size? What was your role within the team? What were the results you delivered? Always make sure that you highlight the results or the impact. So for example, things that you should look out for was improvements in efficiency, or lesser downtime, anything which essentially positively impacted your company. Try to identify how did you positively impact your company. That is, by your presence, you increase the, for example, if you are a digital marketer, if by your presence you increase the number of site visits, or you increase user sessions. If you were a developer, you wrote code that reached X number of people, or was used by so many users, or increased something, or impacted your company in some positive way. So try to identify the end result of it. Always make sure that you write down what was the end result. For example, if you are a tester, you can write your work experience as I wrote these test cases, or you can also write your work experience as I identified and helped fix XYZ X number of bugs, or I improved usability for the end user in these ways. So if you understand what, from an outsider's perspective, the outsider looking in will want to see how you impacted the company rather than what exactly you did. So that is how you should frame your points as such. Also make sure that you don't write or exaggerate minor roles. So what people might do is, if they work on one project on 1 or 2 days, if you put that as a point, it might actually be misleading, because whatever you write here, you have to defend in front of a panel. So you should be able to defend how much time you spent on it. So if it appears that it is not something that you have done or thorough with, it will actually lead to a very negative impression. So do not try to exaggerate things that you worked off once in a while. Absolutely do not put things that you have not worked on, because that will actually be a liability. It would make you nervous in front of the interview panel, and that would be actually a big headache as such for you. That would be something that would be constantly on your mind, that you can't defend that. So don't put things that you have not done work on. Don't exaggerate the work that you have done. Try to be as honest as possible. Highlight your achievements in a way that that was actually true, as close to the so try to be as honest as possible, and make sure that you look at the result from an outsider's perspective. So from an outsider's perspective, they don't care whether or not you ran 10 test cases or 200 test cases, or you wrote 1000 lines of code or 2000 lines of code, or you had chats with 10 people or 200 people. What matters at the end of the day was, how did you positively impact the company? So if your code helped save users, helped save X amount of rupees in costs, or if your tests reduce work hours for other people by X number of days, or all of this, so focus on the impact more on the work as such. That is the important thing to remember, that for an outsider, they consider the impact more than the specifics or details of the work that you have done. Now that is the point on work experience. Always make sure that your this is grammatically correct. Make sure, if you are not very confident of your English, please make sure that you run this by with somebody who has good English. Incorrect grammar would be a major negative point for you as such. So that is the this on work experience. Now going on to the third most important part, that is achievements. As far as achievements is concerned, this includes your academic achievements, your extracurricular activities, and all your positions of responsibility. So the thing that you should do for achievements is that just sit down with all the certificates you have accumulated over years. So over your 12 years of schooling, plus your 3 or 4 years of college, plus your work, etc., you would have accumulated a lot of certificates. If you, for most of you, your parents would have started a file or some kind of a folder where they put all your certificates for you. So sit down with all the certificates you have accumulated, make a list of all the certificates. It might seem trivial to you that you are like even looking at certificates from your 5th grade and 6th grade, but sit down with them, because you never know what you might need. So first start by making a list of all the certificates that you have. Phrasing, etc., you can look at later, but first write down what all certificates you have. Split them into 3 parts. First is your academic achievements. Second is your extracurricular activities. So this includes sports, arts, cultural events, singing, dancing, anything. So all of those come in the second bracket, and the third is the positions of responsibility. So positions of responsibility, you need not have a proper certificate, but if your dean or principal will give you a letter saying that yes, you did hold this position of responsibility, or even if your name is there on the if you can prove that you held a particular position of responsibility, even that is enough. So you might not have a certificate, but just remember what all positions of responsibility you held. So once you start with that list, now let's start with the list you have for academic achievements. Now split them up as national level. So these are all national level ranks, national level results. Then you have the state level ranks and state level results, and then you have the district level ranks, and last you have your school ranks as such. Then you first order them according to highest ranks, top ranks to low ranks. It's not necessary that you put all the national ranks above and then the district state ranks and then the district ranks, etc. For example, if you were first in your high school, that actually might be better to put at the top rather than you were like 50,000 in the nation. So top ranks kind of, especially first and second and third, if you're first in the top 5 in anything, in your institute, in your school, try to put emphasis on that, because that actually matters more than being like 30,000 overall in the nation. So in general, as a thumb rule, national ranks matter more than your institute ranks, unless the institute ranks are like top 5 or top 10. That matters a lot more than your like a very low national level rank matters less than a top 10 rank in your school or institute. Also try to order them according to the recency. So if you were first in your department, that matters more than the fact that you were first in your school in 10th standard, because that is a more recent achievement. So order the achievements that you have. Now you have to edit it down to a list which makes a lot of sense. So that list should actually portray you in the best possible light. So if you have a lot of academic achievements recently, then you can remove all those achievements you had pre-10th standard as such. But if you need to put in some achievements pre-10th standard, ideally you should not, but it's better not to leave empty space also. So make sure that you rank it according to these particular ranking orders, and make sure that you put your recent performances, especially recent good performances, up top. So that is about academic achievements. Now in the second part, come to your extracurriculars, list of extracurriculars achievements. Always put extracurricular achievements of something which is a genuine interest up top. For example, if you're genuinely interested in singing or genuinely interested in dancing, then the thing is that if your panel sees your extracurricular activities, and the first thing they see that you have won certificates in singing, they're likely to ask you a question about that. Now, if you're not genuinely interested in singing, but you have won a certificate, so you put it up top, that will actually make your interview go down the wrong path as such. So make sure that you also are aware of how your extracurriculars will be read. So put your extracurricular achievements on the basis of, firstly, if you won, and if it mentions if you won in a if you won as a in a out of like say 100 people or something like that, also put that. If the certificate itself mentions that stood first in a art competition that had 3,000 participants or something of that sort, always put like the top ranks up ahead, put lower ranks below. If you don't have a lot of certificates, you can also put in certificates where you just participated. So always keep this, that you can make sure that you sit with all your certificates and you consider all of the certificates. For example, your last sports achievements might be from school, but if they're something that you did very well in, for example, you were your school's cricket captain, then still put that in, because it still is a achievement as such. The third section is responsibility shoulder. That's basically positions of responsibility. This section has two parts, that is, one is personal and one is professional. So professional is wherever in work, if you are leading a team of say X people, or if there was a sub team that was formed for addressing something, or if you held a position of responsibility for organizing a cultural event, essentially wherever you have been given you have successfully completed a activity on behalf of your workplace or your college as such. Also in these kind of responsibilities, also put in the impact of the festival. So for example, if it was a team size of 5, so you have to say I led a team of 5 to achieve X result. Or if it's a cultural festival, right, led a team of 10 to organize a cultural festival attended by 10,000 people. So always make sure that you write the numbers that give the proper impact of your position of responsibility. In personal section, it's basically things that where you did volunteer work. For example, if you helped volunteer for Teach for India or anything like that, or where you shouldered some responsibility for family as such. So these are personal things where you don't have a, it's not something that is part of your career or academics or part of your college or work life, but part of your social life as such, where you did something which is extra or above and beyond your work as such. So that is that should be there in your personal section. Basically, in all through the form, always make sure that you are thorough in your first preparation. That is, if you sit down with all your certificates, you won't be blank while filling this, or you won't miss out on something that is important. So always first start down by writing down your like a master list of all things that you have done, all the certificates you have, and once you have that list, then you can filter out those things that are not very relevant anymore. So something that you did in your 4th grade or 5th grade is not relevant, but you can filter it out later once you have made the giant list as such. So first start off with a big list and then filter out things that you are not very relevant anymore. So that is how you should go about this. Make sure that the points that you're writing are relevant to the section. So in academic achievements, do not write about quizzes or do not write about any shared trading competitions or anything of that sort, which is not relevant to that section. If it's an academic achievement, it should be on an academic subject. The second part is that so essentially your point should be relevant to the section. Otherwise, it will not add to the section overall. The second thing is that make sure you're honest. You should be able to support this with certificates and with you should be able to defend it in front of an interview panel. If the interview panel sense that you are lying about something, then it is actually much worse for you than having more some empty space. So make sure that you're honest while filling this form. So that is all that we have to say about the SPJIMR form. Please make sure that you fill the form quickly, because there's not a lot of time left, and make sure that you put in the effort required given the importance that these guys place on profile. Make sure that you take your time while filling this form. Thank you for tuning in.